Bruchim Aboim, welcome everyone. Good morning. I'm a little tired. Rabbi Nachman Zechus says that you have to sometimes get involved in some silly things. And my son wanted to go see the 1953 War of the Worlds. And the movie theater last night was playing in the Rosendale Theater. So my wife and I, we went. We didn't get home till well after midnight. It was almost after 1 o'clock maybe. I don't know. The movie started at 9:30. Was done by 11:30, I guess, or so. So we were out late, and it's about an hour and 15 minutes away. I don't know. We stopped to get gas. I don't know how we got home around 1. Maybe it was before 1. I don't remember. But I'm a little tired. But this was a Dvar Torah that when I was talking about the other day, we printed out the Divrei Torah from Rabbi Nachman. From Likutei Moharan for this one inmate in the hole in the RHU, and how much chizik it gave him. And then I noticed that the last one was from Parshas Bo, and I was like, you know what, maybe I should learn this. But I was busy, whatever, I went to sleep early Shabbos night, and then I woke up in the middle of the night. I couldn't sleep, and I was trying to sleep. I couldn't sleep. Rabbi Nachman says most people tell stories when people go to sleep. He tells stories to wake people up. But anyway, I couldn't sleep, and I got up at 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, Leil Shabbos, and I learned this Torah, and I was just so impressed by it. And then Shalosh Shudas, I learned it with my family, and I was thinking before Shabbos, I should record this. I didn't record it. I don't know how much I'll get done before I get to work now, but this is really a fundamental Torah from Rabbi Nachman. It just teaches really what life is all about, and it's from the parsha we read yesterday. It mentioned some things from this week's coming parsha, Mishalach, also, so it's kedai anyway, but it's really worthwhile all the time. So we might break this up into a few different parts, and I'm not really going to explain it that much. Although it talks about very fundamental ideas in Luriatic Kabbalah and in Hasidus. So let's just learn it. Let's see how far we get, and then we'll do. So V'yomer Hashem el Moshe Bo'al Paro Ki Ani Hichbadati Es Libo V'Sliv Avodav L'man Shisi Ososai Ilem B'Kirbo L'man Tistaper Bose Bincho Uvad Binches Asher Halalti B'Mitzrayim V'Soisai Asher Samti Vam Yadatem Keni Hashem Hineni Mevi Bachor Arbe Bikulecha. And I think when we get to the actual Torah, I'm not going to really read all the Hebrew. I'll just try to translate it as we're reading along. It says, "The Lord spoke unto Moses, Go unto Pharaoh, for I have hardened his heart and the heart of his servants, in order to increase these my signs in his midst, and in order to tell over into the ears of thy son and to thy son's son that which I was elevated in Egypt, and my signs that I set in them, and ye shall know that I am the Lord. Behold, tomorrow I will bring locusts to thy borders." So here's the idea. God created the whole world because of his mercy. Because he wanted to reveal his mercy, and if he didn't create the world, who would he show mercy on? And therefore he created all of creation from the beginning, from the first emanation until the last central point of the physical world, to the center of the earth, in order to demonstrate his mercy, or the center of the universe, whatever it is. And since the Blessed Lord wished to create the world, there was nowhere to create it, because everything was Ein Sof. Ein Sof means that there's no end, that the endless light of God. Al Ken Sim Sema Orlet Studin. Therefore he made it Tzimtzum. Tzimtzum means the withdrawal of the light, that he withdrew to the sides. And through the Tzimtzum, through the withdrawal, through the constriction, he created what's called Chalal Apanoi, the empty space. And inside this empty space, all the days and all the midos, all the attributes that are all the creation of the world came to be within the empty space. This is in the Eitz Chaim. These are fundamental ideas in Kabbalah, and of course, there's the famous argument that we've discussed between the Vilna Gaon and the Tanya about whether we say Tzimtzum Kipshuto, which is how the Vilna Gaon teaches that there actually was a constriction, or Tzimtzum Lav Kipshuto, that there isn't really a constriction, it's only more or less an illusion, which is an essential idea in Hasidus, in the earliest Hasidic form, quoting from the Baal Shem Tov, that really the Tzimtzum is only an illusion. And Rabbi Nachman ben Feges Chusi Galeinu Mokal Yisrael Amen is going to explain this. So this empty space was necessary for the creation of the world, because without the empty space, there would be no place for the world to exist, as we said above. And this constriction that created the empty space, it's impossible to understand it. We'll only be able to understand it in the future. That's part of our eschatology, is that then we'll be able to understand the empty space and the tzimtzum and what all these things mean. Because in order to discuss this idea, there has to be two opposites, yesh and ayin, existence and non-existence, X and nilo. Because the empty space comes from the constriction, the tzimtzum. Kiviyachol, as if such a thing was possible, it means that God withdrew or constricted his godliness from the empty space to create the empty space. And Kiviyachol, as if it was possible to say such a thing, and of course in the Hasidic theology it is impossible to say such a thing, that there is no godliness in that empty space. But again, it's only like a matter of speech, as a matter of an example, as a matter of a parable, but not in actuality. It's more like an archetype, because but within this system of this world, there is such a thing as the empty space. It's just the question is it really empty, or is it just an illusion that it's empty? So therefore, because if it wasn't really empty, then because everything is just God, and so then where's the emptiness? So then there's no, but if there is no emptiness, there's nowhere for the world to be created at all. But the real truth is that really, even in the empty space, there is godliness. Because for sure there's nothing that exists without the life force of God. And therefore it's impossible to understand at all this concept of the empty space until the future, the eschatological future. Alright, we made it this far. Let's see the next part. Let's see how far we'll make it. And you should know that there are two types of heresy, of apikorsis in the world. There's apikorsis, there's heresy that comes from chochmas and chitzonius, from the outer wisdoms, from science and other religions and all kinds of things, and witchcraft and all kinds of things. And that's what it says in Pirkei Avos, Damash and Tas Shuv Lapikoris. The Mishnah says you should know what to answer a heretic, because this type of heresy is something you can answer. It's very interesting because of the situation that made some news recently that we were involved with, that's very upsetting to me. This gave me a little bit of chizik, and I'm hoping maybe if that younger man maybe will, if he never learned this Torah, maybe he'll learn it, or maybe he'll learn the video, maybe someone will show it to him, and maybe he'll do tshuva from this, because there is answers for all of these heresies. Because the heresy that comes from the outer wisdoms, that they come from things that are extra. You could use the same word to mean luxuries, but it doesn't mean here luxuries, but rather it's the concept, again, a basic Kabbalistic concept of Shviras HaKelim, of the broken vessels. Because there was so much light in creation that the vessels were not able to withstand the light, and then the vessels burst, and there's broken pieces of the vessels all over, and that's how the klipos came to be. Klipos literally means shells or husks, but it means the forces of evil, the forces of impurity, the dark side. All of these things came as is known, and the outer wisdoms come from there. All of the science and all of the religion and everything in the world and philosophy and all these things, that they come from there, from the broken pieces, which are the leftover garbage from holiness, the excess, and that's what we see by human beings. There's different types of extra things and waste products. For example, human beings grow fingernails and hair and sweat and all the other excrement and everything and excess that comes from the human that he doesn't need. Similarly, it's that same archetype as the outside wisdoms that come from the extra and refuse that is known from holiness. It comes from a source of holiness. So to witchcraft, kishuv, comes from this extra garbage as is known, but it's a garbage that comes from holiness. So therefore, if someone falls into this type of heresy, this type of apikorsis, even though, of course, any voiler erlechiyid has to run away and try to save himself from that type of heresy, but despite that, if he falls there, it's possible to be rescued from there and to leave there actually quite easily, because you can find God there, because God is there, because it comes from holiness. You just have to seek him out and ask for him there. And then why? Because it comes from the shviras hakelim, it comes from the broken vessels, and so there's so many sparks of holiness there, nitzotzos hakadusha as it's called, and therefore, and many letters that got broken and fell there as is known, and therefore you can find God there, you can find seichel, you can find intelligence to answer the questions that the heretics have that comes from these outside wisdoms, because they come from the extra pieces, they come from the broken vessels, because there is chiyus elokus, there is godly life force there, which means the seichel, the intelligence, and the letters, the holy letters that got broken and fell there. And therefore this type of apikorsis, this type of heresy, it has a tshuva, it has an answer, which also means repentance. But here we mean it's an answer. You can answer it, you can fix it, and that's why it says in the Mishnah, Dama Shetoshav Lapikoris, you should know what to answer a heretic. However, there's a second type of heresy. That comes from a wisdom that's not wisdom at all. Things that people think they're very deep and we don't really understand them, and we say, but so it seems like these are great wisdoms. So for example, if someone comes up with a svara, with an explanation and an idea that is false, within his study, he makes like a pilpul, and he studies the Talmud, and he studies the Rashi and Tosfos, and he comes to a false idea, a false svara, that's like a logical argument, but it's really illogical and false from his Talmud study. And because he's not a lamdin, because he's not a true scholar, he doesn't know how to answer the question that comes from this logical argument, and from this he thinks he said this great wise answer, but the truth is it's nothing. It's not a svara. It's not a logical, valid argument. So there's all kinds of confusion and perplexities and questions that come from the philosophers that are philosophers of Jewish philosophy, that really is no wisdom at all to them. And these questions are really totally empty and canceled from their very root. But because the people don't have the proper intelligence to answer them, through this it seems like it appears to be wisdom and questions, but the truth is it's impossible to answer these questions, because the questions that come from this second type of heresy, they come from the chalo panoi, what we said before, the empty space. Because in the empty space, in the archetype of the empty space, there's no godliness, so to speak. Of course, that God is there, but it's the image, is the Dimion is so strong that it's as if God is not there, as opposed to the Shviras Akalim. The other types of heresy, it's very easy to find God there. You just have to look, and then you'll do tshuva. But with the frummer type of heresy, like the people who say, they're these great rationalists, it's much harder to find God there, because in the archetype of the system that we're in, it's as if God is not there. Of course He is there. It's hard to find Him there because He's so hidden, and so therefore that's where these types of questions come from. That's the archetype of the empty space, because it's impossible to find any answer for them, because it's impossible to find God there, because if He was found there, then it wouldn't be empty, and then everything would just be the Ein Sof. And therefore, my wife's calling me, so